Hi, this is Scott Bach-Hansen with Cardinal Basketball Officials Association, as well as the Steve Gordon Basketball Officials Camp. These clips are travel clips that I wanted to show to our coaches that we're meeting with, coming up with Aseem Rastogi's group. So I wanted to go through these because we talk about why officials miss traveling, and so I wanted to go through these because I thought it might be helpful. So in this clip here, I want you to tell me if you can pick up if the official is correct in calling travel. Okay, so if I rewind it back, I'm going to put it in slow motion to make it a little bit easier. So when we watch this play here, as the official gets into position and the player pops out and receives the pass, the first thing we want to do as officials is figure out, once they've gathered the ball and have possession, which foot is the pivot foot. So from this standpoint, as he catches the ball, you can see that the left foot is down, so the left foot would be the pivot foot. Now, by rule, he cannot release the foot cannot come off the ground before the ball is released to start the dribble. So as I forward this out, now you can see his right foot comes back. So now we definitely know his left foot is the pivot foot. And as I move forward, you'll see that the left foot comes up before he starts his dribble. Therefore, this is a correct travel call. The signal and the belief of his call is a different story. But this is the correct call. Okay, this travel play here is one that a lot of people are confused about. This is one of those where the player gets possession, and what are they allowed to do? Are they allowed to slide? Are they allowed to roll? Are they allowed to move over? So in this play here, you can look at this and tell me if you think there's a travel. All right, as I back up, we'll put it in slow motion again. There's no travel here because there's barely any possession. The ball gets knocked around, and then player on white now has possession. We're close to a potential held ball situation here, but we usually give an extra second to see if the kids can play through this. This kid comes off right away, so that takes away the potential for a held ball. And as he rolls over right there, that becomes a travel play. And so good job by the crew here as well. They started coming in to make sure they were protecting players. And Richard, we affectionately call him Dickie V correctly, has the travel call here. All right, in this clip here, this is, is this a Euro step? This is something that the players have really started coming out with recently. And I'm going to go through full speed. Official calls a travel. Now, the question is the official correct? So if as it goes through in slow motion, the one thing I will tell you here from an officiating standpoint, what we teach our officials is I'm not really sure he has a really good look at this because he's still moving down the court on a fast break, and he'll end up looking between players. And what ends up happening is he sees something that looks like a travel, but as you can see, this is just a normal Euro step. That is not a travel. If anything, it's a foul on white 2. We've taken away the potential for free throws and possession and given it to the other team. A lot of times officials look at plays and they think that it's a travel because it looks goofy. And our goal is to teach officials that just because it looks strange doesn't necessarily mean it is a travel. This is quite an interesting play here. I just talked about it may look like a travel or it may look strange, so is it a travel? I'll go through in regular motion first. A lot of stuff going on here. So there's a couple of things that we pay attention to as officials. Number one is we got to pick up the pivot foot. And we got to have good positioning. Our trail position is in pretty good shape here. Believe it or not, this is more the trail's call than the official that's closest to the play. The official that's closest to the play in post play generally referees from knees to shoulders, and the referee in the trail position helps with the feet and helps with anything up top. However, in this situation, the lead has really good position because they're wide enough you can't even see them, and they're deep enough that they have a good angle that either one of these officials could have called this a travel if they felt it was a travel. So as I back up, you'll see as he gets the post, the left foot is his pivot foot because you can see that he is jabbing with his right foot. So right there, he has position, steps through, and there's no call. So as I go through this, left foot, it's okay, steps through. Now, if that left foot returned to the court, it would be a travel. But in this situation here, because the left foot is established as the pivot foot, he's allowed to step through. If the left foot would come back down, it would be a travel. If anything on this play, we have a foul in the defense. Based on that kind of play, I'm okay with our officials not having a foul on that play. This is quite an interesting play here. This is a very unique play that is in our casebook. I'm going to show it to you in fast pace first. Okay, and we have a travel call. If I go back on this play, the first thing I want you to see is as the player starts trying to dribble, the ball gets knocked away by the defender. The defender now becomes an offensive player as he goes in and gets the ball. Now, as he gets the ball, the feet get tangled up on the new defender, the former offensive player, and he tumbles over him. You could potentially call a foul on this, but because it looks like the offensive player is the one that's lunging for the ball, which causes blue to have their balance knocked off, I don't think we have a foul here. But as you'll see is he lets the ball go so that he can stand up, and now he gets control of it and starts dribbling. This is a very unique play in our casebook, and this is correctly called a travel by Mr. Marvin Dawkins. This is a play that's quite common for players that are coming around from screens, especially curl screens. I'll put it to you in fast motion first. Official calls a travel. Was the official correct? Catches the ball here. Left foot is off the ground. Right foot will be the first on the ground. Therefore, the right foot is the pivot foot. The right foot comes off the ground before the ball is released for the dribble. Therefore, this is a travel. A very difficult play for officials to have, especially on a pass on a curl play like this. Officials generally do not get this play correct. However, in this game, the official did get the correct call. Now, one of the things that's different about officiating girls' games versus boys' games, this is not a slight on the boys, but the girls are much more fundamentally sound. And so they have different type of step-through plays that we as officials aren't used to seeing, and we overreact and call travels. There's going to be a couple of these in these clips. The first clip here I'll put in for regular motion. The official calls a travel on this play. My question to you is the official correct? So the player comes through, right foot is the pivot foot, as the left foot is gaining balance, and now the left foot will step through. The ball is released before the right foot returns to the floor, therefore this should not be a travel call. The official is incorrect in making this call. In this play here, the guard will get the ball at the top, and we have a potential for a travel, and I wanted to ask you, in regular speed, do you think the official made the correct call? Official calls a travel. Is the official correct? As we go back into slow motion, you'll see that the right foot really should have been the pivot foot as they caught the ball. If I back it up, Right foot's down, left foot's off the ground. It's so close, we pass on it and let the left foot be the pivot foot, which in normal circumstances, that close, the speed of play, hard to argue with the official letting that happen, because if we call the travel there, most people will disagree. However, if we now say the left foot's the pivot foot, and you see that the pivot foot is moving, or the other foot is moving, the right foot, the ball must not be released before the left foot. So now the left foot comes off the ground, the ball is now released, and this is an easy travel call. That's what we call just the switch of the pivot foot. This is a common play we see in a girls' basketball game, and again, we're talking about girls being fundamentally sound. There's two things to pay attention to from an officiating standpoint here. If we were teaching officials, we would talk about, number one is, do we pick up the pivot foot? Number two is our lead in a really good position, or could they be a little wider and deeper to be able to see the feet on this play? And if they did, they might have gotten this play correct. So let me go ahead and move forward. The official call to travel was the official correct. Can we tell what the pivot foot was? So as I go through in slow motion, you'll see that when 44 picks up her dribble here, the left foot is the pivot foot, which means that the right foot, the step through, is legal. It does not become a travel until the left foot returns back to the ground. This is a legal play. And the official is incorrect in their signal. And this is me, by the way, and I could have done a much better job of being wider. So just breaking down my own video, I try to find ways that we can be better at this. So teaching our officials that my mistake here was being wider and not catching the pivot foot. This is our last travel play. And so one of the things that I think we also get confused about as officials is we fall for a ball fake and think that the pivot foot is moved. And you'll see that in this play here. The official calls a travel, but if we go back and we can put it in slow motion, you'll notice that as the player catches the pass, her left foot is the pivot foot. All she does is give a ball fake and a jab step, and then does a crossover. The left foot is still on the ground as the ball is being released. The official reacts to this play and reacts incorrectly. This is not a travel call. This is one that we as officials get wrong more than we get right. And a lot of the reason is we're not picking up the pivot foot. We're paying attention to the ball and the move versus the feet. A couple of clips outside of traveling I just wanted to share with you. This first one is a backcourt violation call. And this is one of those plays that a lot of times there's not a lot of awareness of what's backcourt and what's not backcourt. So in this situation, the ball is passed from the backcourt, but you'll see that the receiver of the pass is in the front court and jumps, catches the ball in the air, and as they come down, they land in the backcourt. Therefore, this would be a backcourt violation. Okay, so I'll show it to you in slow motion. Notice that the player here with the red shoes is coming up. And as the pass is released, he's still in the front court. He jumps, catches the ball. He's in the air, lands in the backcourt. This is a backcourt violation because your position on the court is from where you last left the court. So if you've left the court, caught the ball in the air, then landed in the backcourt, this would be a backcourt violation. The only difference is there's a opportunity for us to not have a backcourt if this was a throw-in. So if this was a throw-in from out of bounds, that's one of the two exceptions that we would have. The other exception is if the defender jumped from the front court, caught the ball, and landed in the backcourt on a steal. That would not be backcourt. And I'm not sure why I had to come all the way over. that's just a different discussion for us. This play here is an interesting play from a transition standpoint. I want to see if you can pick off the foul. I'll rewind it. And I'm going to explain to you why the foul is missed. So as we get into transition, as we come up to court, you'll notice that the ball is going to get swung over here to the side. The defender is going to try and run out, but number white 30 puts his arm out and prevents the defender from being able to close out. Right there. And you can see that especially with the arm that high up, we should get. Now, in a normal book, it tells us that this side of the court belongs to Gill, who's our center official, but he's also got to protect the shooter and watch this behind the arc, make sure it's a three-pointer. And so really, this play here belongs to our lead official. I mean, our trail official can come in very late if need be, if they can see it. But this is one of those things that we don't pay attention to the normal court coverage, and we have to use some elasticity in the way that we manage the play. So as this play comes through, you'll see that play right there, there's a missed opportunity to have a foul, an offensive foul, and it also will prevent potential rough play. Okay, this will be a contrast of two different officials refereeing very similar plays. In this play here, we have our center official, who's about to become our trail official. And we really focus on staying engaged in the play, not rotating out of the play. And we try to make sure that the officials understand this because it keeps their angle. I call it angle integrity. Adam probably just says keeping your angle. But the official here does a good job of being able to see this play start, develop, and finish, take it all the way to the basket, and correctly identify the foul. Gets the foul, and calls it correctly. Now, if we take the same exact type of play, you'll notice that we have a rotation coming over. The official normally would back out, but what we tell them, again, is what Alex did on the previous play, is to not leave. We want to stay engaged with this matchup. And you'll see what happens as we move forward here, that the official continues to back out of the play, takes himself away from the play, and is a lot less believable when they make their whistle call on this play. So I think it's really important from a standpoint of just understanding the differences. Is there contact? Yeah. But now you can see that the official is so far back versus our other official was here and more engaged in the play. He's backing away from the play. It's just not as believable. The last play I'll talk to you about is just the importance of positioning for our officials. And again, this is from our summer training and evaluation program. These are JV officials that we evaluate to be considered to move with the varsity. And we're on the microphone. I'm not going to have the audio on this, but I really want you to understand what we're teaching here so you're aware of it. As this play develops, we'll notice that the drive goes towards the basket, and what we're saying here is that we really want to make sure that our lead official is wide, because as the play comes towards the basket, if we shrink our angle, we're less likely to have the potential to make the correct call. So we really want to be wider here and step out. We also want to make sure our trail official here steps towards the sideline, because then they can keep their angle integrity again, as I call it. Adam thinks that's a goofy statement, but it allows us to make sure that we see the full play as opposed to just looking in the back of the defender. And you'll see what ends up happening here as I play this through is you're going to have a play where the shooter gets fouled and we don't have a whistle from the officials that it should come from. Instead, our center official way over here is the one that ends up making the call and saving the day for the crew. It's unfortunate. It's correct that the official came over and made this call, and I think if it was your team that you'd like for him to make this call, but we as officials want to make sure that the guys that are in position, if they're correctly in position, they have a better chance to make the call. So let's go ahead and look at this as it ends. Pretty apparent that he gets fouled. And again, if our officials were in the right place, we would have had this foul. Instead, our center from across the court comes over and makes that call. So I hope that this video will help you. I want to try to keep it to 20 minutes just to give you some clips to think about and that we can talk through as we meet on Monday. And I hope that you have a great weekend. Thank you.